Pittsburgh just built something scary in the backfield, and almost nobody is talking about it. Two different 1,000-yard runners on the same roster at the same time. This is either the most underrated running back room in the entire NFL, or it's about to expose a problem nobody saw coming. Subscribe. Let's talk about it, because this offseason move deserves way more attention than it's getting. When most teams lose a piece of their backfield, they panic. They settle. They grab whatever's left on the leftover pile of free agency and hope it works out. That is not what Pittsburgh did. When Kenneth Gainwell walked out the door this offseason, a guy who, let's be honest, quietly had the best year of his career and somehow walked away with the team MVP award, the front office had every excuse to shrug it off and roll with what they had. Instead, they went out and added a player who might actually be better. Not better in some hype video, no substance kind of way. Better based on the actual numbers. So here's the question you need to be asking yourself right now. How does a team lose a productive, pass-catching back and somehow come out of it stronger? That's exactly what happened in Pittsburgh, and it starts with two names, Jaylen Warren and Rico Dowdle. Let's start with Warren, because he's the anchor of this whole thing. This is a guy who runs like he's got something to prove on every single carry. Downhill, physical, punishing, but don't sleep on his ability to bounce a run to the outside and turn a 5-yard gain into a house call. And here's what makes him different from a typical bruiser. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Before he was ever handed the keys as a full-time starter, Warren spent years as a third-down specialty back, the guy quarterbacks trusted to check it down to in a pinch. That versatility didn't disappear when he became the guy. It's still there. It's part of what makes him dangerous. Now here's where it gets interesting. Instead of pairing Warren with another change of pace, third-down type player, the Steelers went out and got Rico Dowdle. And Dowdle's story is almost a mirror image of Warren's. He also started his career as a third-down, pass-catching specialist. He also had to wait his turn. But over the last 2 seasons, across 2 different teams, Dowdle broke out in a massive way, back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. First with Dallas, then with Carolina. Think about how rare that actually is. 2 different locker rooms, 2 different offensive systems, 2 different offensive lines, and the exact same result both times. That's not luck. That's a player who has figured something out about himself. And here's a stat that should stop you in your tracks. If Dowdle hits 1,000 yards again this season in Pittsburgh, he becomes the first running back in NFL history to post 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons with 3 different teams. Let that sink in for a second. Not 2 teams. 3. In an era where teams treat running backs like disposable parts, cutting them loose the moment a rookie contract runs dry, Dowdle has managed to walk into 3 separate buildings and immediately produce at an elite level. That's the kind of accomplishment that should be getting national attention, and somehow it's flying completely under the radar. But here's the part that makes this signing even more impressive. Dowdle wasn't even given the full workload in Carolina. For a chunk of that season, he was splitting carries with Chuba Hubbard. It was really only about half the year where Dowdle got to operate as the true lead back. And in those stretches, he was putting up 200-yard performances. Multiple times. That's not a complimentary piece. That's a player who can absolutely handle the full burden of a starting workload when given the opportunity. He just hasn't always been given the chance to prove it over a full 16 or 17 games. So now picture this. You're pairing a runner who can put up 200 yards in a game when unleashed, next to a guy in Warren who just posted his own 1,000-yard, all-purpose season as a first-time full-time starter. Neither of these players is fragile. Neither of these players folds when the workload gets split. And that right there is the secret sauce. Here's your first question to sit with, and I genuinely want to hear your answer in the comments. If you had to bet on one runner to be the guy by week 10, who are you picking, Warren or Dowdle? Or do you think this stays a true 50-50 split all season long? Let's talk about why this pairing works so well schematically, because it's not just about talent. It's about identical skill sets showing up in different bodies. Both of these backs run angry. Watch Warren on tape, and he looks like a wrecking ball, bouncing off would-be tacklers, refusing to go down on first contact, never afraid to lower his shoulder into a linebacker twice his size. Dowdle does the exact same thing. He's a smaller-framed back, but he runs like he's got 10 extra pounds of attitude packed into every carry. He doesn't shy away from contact. He seeks it out. 2 players, 2 different backgrounds, one identical mentality. Put your head down and go to work. That mentality lines up perfectly with what head coach Mike McCarthy has said he wants out of his backfield this offseason. McCarthy has been clear that he doesn't want to be forced into substituting a running back off the field in certain situations because that back can't be trusted on third down or in pass protection. He wants three-down players. He wants backs who can do everything: run between the tackles, bounce it outside, catch checkdowns, and hold up in protection, without tipping off the defense based on who's lined up in the backfield. That's exactly why Gainwell, productive as he was, didn't get retained. Gainwell was fantastic in specific situations. He actually led this entire team in receptions last season, which honestly says more about how the offense struggled to move the ball through the air than it does about Gainwell's individual talent. He won team MVP doing it, but he was never the downhill, between the tackles runner. Most of his production came on quick, one-yard checkdown routes, the kind of easy completions an aging quarterback relies on when nothing else is open. He was a specialist. Warren and Dowdle are not specialists. They're every-down weapons. Now, let's be fair to Jaylen Warren for a second, because his path here deserves way more respect than it usually gets. Even during his big breakout season, there were stretches where Gainwell was actually getting more snaps than Warren in certain game situations. Think about that. The guy who ended up being the far more explosive, more complete player was still getting rotated out in favor of a specialty back, and he still managed to outproduce him statistically. That's not a small thing. That tells you everything about Warren's ceiling once he's given the full workload without interruption. And this is where the two backs' backgrounds start to look eerily similar again. Warren spent years watching Najee Harris get the bulk of the workload ahead of him, forced to earn every single opportunity in a timeshare. Dowdle spent a chunk of last season splitting carries with Chuba Hubbard in Carolina, never fully certain when his number would be called. Neither player has an ego problem when it comes to sharing the load, because neither player has ever known anything different. They've both lived in timeshares their entire careers and found ways to stay productive anyway. That's exactly the kind of mentality you want in a true committee backfield. Two players who understand the assignment and won't sulk if the workload isn't split exactly the way they want. So don't expect either one of these guys to suddenly demand a bell cow workload and pout if they don't get it. Expect something close to an even split, maybe 50-50, maybe leaning one direction depending on matchups and game flow, unless an injury forces the Steelers' hand or one player simply separates himself in training camp. And if that split does stay close to even, this might genuinely be one of the most efficient, lowest drop-off running back rooms in the entire NFL heading into the season. Here's your question of the day, and I want a real answer in the comments below, not just a one-word reply. Is a true 50-50 running back duo, where both players are averaging 4.5 yards a carry with zero drop-off, actually more valuable to a team than having one dominant, bell cow superstar who touches the ball 30 times a game? Drop your take below. I'm reading every single comment on this one. Because here's the thing people overlook when they rank running back duos across the league. Sure, you can point to teams with a true superstar like Christian McCaffrey, and yeah, in a vacuum, that individual talent is going to be higher than anything Pittsburgh has. But look at how those duos actually function on the field. In most of those situations, the backup running back is playing maybe 15–20% of the offensive snaps. He's a change of pace piece, not a genuine co-starter. Media outlets slap the label elite duo on those situations, but it's really one great player and one complementary piece riding shotgun. Pittsburgh's situation is completely different. This isn't one star and one caddy. This is two players who are functionally interchangeable in what they provide on any given play. Whoever is on the field, you're getting downhill power running, you're getting the ability to bounce it outside, you're getting a legitimate pass-catching threat who can stay on the field for third down, and you're getting a physical, punishing running style that wears defenses down over 4 quarters. There is no lesser option in this backfield. There's no situation where the defense gets to relax because the backup is in the game. That's what makes this pairing genuinely special, even if it doesn't get the national spotlight that flashier names attract. When it comes to true, evenly split committees, not one superstar with a complementary piece, but two players who can legitimately do it all, this might be the best running back duo in the entire NFL heading into the season. Not the most talented individually, not the flashiest, but the most complete, the most reliable, and the hardest to game plan against because there's no drop-off no matter who's carrying the ball. Training camp is right around the corner, and this backfield battle, or lack of one, if the coaching staff really does split it evenly, is going to be one of the most fascinating storylines to track all preseason. Keep an eye on the reps in camp, keep an eye on the preseason snap counts, and get ready for a Pittsburgh backfield that might just surprise a lot of people who slept on this offseason move.